This is my first NASA tweet-up experience.
Seeing everything in person instead of in pictures.
Be here and to have the access with the engineers and some of the astronauts and to be able to discuss with them what they do and how they do it. It's not like what you see on TV.
And then they get on this bus that'll take them out to the launch pad. The interesting thing about this bus is when you get out there, there's some security guys there. You know, there's some SWAT guys. There's a helicopter above the bus that's taking it to the launch pad. So there's a lot of security. And I remember my first launch, Dwayne Carey, Digger was my buddy was the other rookie. On the flight, we walk out there and we're getting on the bus and he goes, man, look at all the security. You know, I go, I'm not sure if they're here to protect us or to make sure we get on.
A fascinating thing for me is that when the Challenger disaster happened when I was in middle school, it didn't dissuade me at all. And if anything, it cemented that this was such a cool industry and a cool business to get things off the planet and to study what was out there in the universe, that people were willing to risk their lives to do it. And I wanted my life to be involved in this whole process.
On 100,000 acres owned by NASA in this area, they have a population of approximately 15,000 gators. A helicopter goes around to get some of the gators to find secure spots, I guess, because we honor the life of gators here.
Oh, and even though I'm not really into like a lot of space stuff, I thought it'd be really cool to learn more about it and experience that. One of the things that has impressed me the most is the fact that all of the workers here are so passionate about what they're doing. It doesn't matter if they're a real astronaut or, you know, just an engineer or, you know, the bus driver even. Like, everyone here is just so passionate about what they're doing, and that really inspires me.
As far as the future of the U.S. space program, I'm kind of, you know, at odds. I understand where Obama's coming from as far as that we need to cut costs everywhere in government, but I guess I don't understand why he thinks that NASA is one of the places where it needs to come from the most. I think that there are other places in our government that can have costs cut much easier than from NASA. They're already, you know, running on a shoestring budget as is.
It's today's Earth Day, and we're in the tweet up. We're having so much fun.
This is a satellite shot of DC, roughly around there.
One of the single most important things, though, is that we're collecting the data to help us understand how the planet is going to change in the not too distant future.
I saw a few photographs of the glaciers, and it was really impressive and how they are melting. And what he said, that usually temperatures are -30s, and then this year there were some days that it was in 30 degrees. That was scary.
Behind me you can see the wind turbine, and actually this wind turbine is powering all of the electronics that are going on here in the NASA tents here.
Wonderful speakers on climate science, hearing about ice shelves and deforestation, acidification of our oceans, and it's just a great opportunity to get to hear about science from the scientists themselves.
I've been learning a lot of things about the other stuff that NASA does related to atmosphere and the satellites, data acquisition and data processing.
If you look at what we do in the hostile environment of space, we have very little resupply. So we have to create our own energy, which is solar. We have to store the energy, which is your battery power. And we have to recycle our water, wastewater, which we're doing. Food security issues, so we have long shelf life for food. There's a lot of issues that Earth faces kind of in the long run, but we're facing it in the short run because we have humans out there having to live this life.
I'm kind of curious about you because, you know, I know that you grew up in the Cold War era just as I did. Do you ever think about the fact that the leading countries in space were actually one time, you know, very strong enemies, and with Russia as recently as 20 years ago? So how does it feel to be working together cooperatively with people that you grew up to and were basically taught to distrust or fear?
As the world gets smaller, and what I mean by that, the communications is more readily available to more people around the globe. We are able to Twitter and have conversations and ask questions and get questions pretty rapidly. To begin to see the humor of folks and the humors that are embedded in other cultures. Laughing together certainly does break down walls of communication. The bottom line is, the first time I went to Russia and was traveling around, the impression I got was, my gosh, there are families with kids in playgrounds just like we are well known to have, and it isn't with the individual person that we had a conflict or a tense situation with back in the Cold War era. It was more along the lines of the ideologies. And as a result of that, the more we travel, the smaller the world gets, the more we see that there are very tangible human beliefs and values that are very common across the globe. And I think it's an extremely wonderful, enriching experience to be able to share in that kind of history, especially with our background at the age that we are, with our compadres. I tell you, I count my crewmates among my closest friends, and I think that's a wonderful testament to how far we've come in this future.
I'm trying to get, I've got a couple flighty people here that I'm trying to wing in for an interview, but it's not going very well. They seem to have a one-track mind, and participating in the interview is not high on their priority list.
Do you think that we spend too much or too little or just the right amount?
I think that given that we are a nation without adequate health care, that we're a nation with a large homeless problem, and that we're a nation significantly challenged by our own internal problems in terms of our national budget.
I think international cooperation is very good. It shows some sort of peace between nations, at least it's in some position.
How many astronauts can you name?
Wow. You got your Neil Armstrong, you got your Buzz Aldrin, you got the lady in the diaper.
We're killing it. We have to save this precious planet, God's home.
Do you feel that space exploration should be a priority for nations?
I think there's other things that should be taken more seriously, but I do think it is a very important thing to research in the future.
Because space is just unknown. This whole world is unknown. So we don't even know how we got here. We don't even know if there's living beings on any other planet. So it's basically just an event that I'm hoping to find out, and I'm hoping that I'm alive to find out if we can live on space one day. And it's just so exciting to know that there's many different planets and how we actually came about. And if we can find that information out, that would be so amazing. Imagine how many things are in space that can actually cure people and can actually help us as one whole.
Experiments that astronaut David Wolf did in space to grow tissue in space helped down on Earth, and now they're growing like entire human bladders they can transplant into somebody who's lost their bladder for disease. And if that type of experiment hadn't been done in orbit on the space shuttle or on the International Station, then they wouldn't be able to do that here on Earth and know the science involved in it.
You know, if you look around here, you'd be tempted to think that it's cold everywhere in the world, but the reality is it's only cold here. Well, here and a few other places. It's winter after all. But that's where NASA has something unique over the rest of us. They can float above this planet and see it in a perspective that few of us will ever get to see. They can see that it's just one world. When those of us on the ground are busy fighting over territories, religious beliefs, colour, what else, those floating above us can see us in a manner that unites us, that can show mankind that we really are one, that we really have a common cause.